This is the Global Broadcasting Service, serving remote outposts since 1928.
Hi, everyone. Welcome aboard the Walt Disney World Express monorail.
Caramba, we have something really big for you today.
Welcome, foolish mortals.
Now then, hang on to them hats and glasses, because this here's the wildest ride in the wilderness.
This is the DBC Pod with Phil Schoen and Jason Dodge. Hey everybody, welcome to this week's pod. This is a show for the week of December 19th, 2022. We're back from the world. It was an excellent vacation. So you're going to get about 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks worth of trip reports. But today we're going to talk about top level stuff. So you're not going to hear what we did day one, day two. We're going to talk about all about planning and strategy, how the parks are evolving and how our previous knowledge is either no longer good for planning or if it did work out. I'm really excited to hear Phil's top level thoughts on Genie Plus. This is his first time using it, especially with hoppers and everything else like that. So I have some thoughts along that as well. But first, Phil, there's some news items that we want to get to. So what's going on in our Disney World this week?
Yeah, so a couple things happened that I wanted to make sure people were aware of. Some of them are new items coming to the park that were supposed to come out in 2022, which we are rapidly approaching the end of the year. The first thing actually did happen, and that the DuckTales World Showcase Adventure game did launch at Epcot. There's a lot of good videos going around. Touring Plans has a lot of fun stuff, but it's for those of you who have done either the Agent P or the Kim Possible stuff before, it's very similar to that, except this one uses the Play Disney app. And basically it's in 7 of the different countries in World Showcase, and each country has 3 assignments, and they take about 25 to 30 minutes each. So if you're somebody who has sort of a longer vacation, maybe several days in plan for Epcot in between, trying all the different food booths and stuff like that, this might be something that would be fun, something a little different and helps you explore the different countries. One thing I like is, at least for the finale, there's sort of like a physical prop movement that happens. It's not all just screen based or just on your phone. There is actually something in the world that will happen. So this was something we heard was coming. We didn't know if it would actually make it by the end of the year. Actually, I think it was on the when we were traveling down, all of a sudden people were like noting it was showing up in the Play app and stuff like that. And I was like, ooh, maybe it'll open for us. But it opened officially on the 16th. So 2 days ago from this recording. But just another fun thing, hearing, a lot of families are trying it out and stuff like that. So it's always a good, anything else that helps families explore World Showcase, I think, is a positive.
I just want to take a little bit of our trip report putting into this because it's the same subject. We did the cookie stroll and we did the Olaf kind of hunt, I guess, across the World Showcase. And I was never a big person of just like walking around doing these type of things. But I'm completely turned on this. The Olaf hunt, spent $10. We got a little doodad pouch thing at the end. My kids absolutely loved it. And my wife had a good time taking pictures and searching for Olaf. So it's something that we did. The cookie stroll, you kind of collect and had cookies along the way. I think that was a pretty cool experience. So that being said, the next time we go to Epcot, this is something that we'll definitely do because it keeps the kids engaged as we're, maybe not doing such kid level stuff as we're walking from country to country.
Exactly. On the flip side, something that was originally supposed to come out this year, Disney came out and announced that it is delaying until spring of 2023, and that is the Roundup Rodeo Barbecue in Toy Story Land in Hollywood Studios. So Disney put out some new kind of photos from inside, and there's tons of props, and it looks really cute and stuff like that. We still don't really have details of the menu or anything like that, but this is another sit-down restaurant coming to Hollywood Studios in the Toy Story Land, but they missed sort of the initial date they were targeting by the end of this year. It's now not going to be until spring.
I don't mind them missing the date. It's fine, but the park desperately needs better dining, and I look forward to this to being there. The only problem is this is in an area that's highly trafficked. It's just going to cause more and more of a traffic jam, I think. So maybe avoid the main entrance of Toy Story Land and come in through Galaxy's Edge, probably.
Yep. And then the last topic I was actually going to talk about, there's another Wall Street Journal story out about, the fight between Bob Chapek and Bob Iger and stuff like that. But I don't think there's too much we can really comment on. It's just more, I guess, drama at the executive level of what happened. I think what's more fun is that CNBC has an article out where they ask, I guess they do this every year, where they talk to different media executives what are their predictions for the coming year. And there were quite a few that connected to Disney. Now, one of the people that responded to this last year said that his prediction is that Bye Bye Girl will come back. So it's obviously somebody who at least either can see the future or has some like insider information. Interesting things in there. One of them is that, well, multiple people predicted that Netflix will be acquired. One person said that it would be Disney acquiring Netflix, which I'm not sure if they would be allowed to. It sounds like a little bit of too much of a conglomeration. We'll see. The other one, though, is that they might acquire Candle Media, which is where former Disney executives, Kevin Meyer and Tom Staggs, now are currently at and started up. So the idea is more it would be acquiring them to acquire those individuals, with one or both of them becoming the next CEO of Disney. The other thing that also has some attractive kids IPs like Coco Melon and stuff like that. So it could be a smaller acquisition that might make sense for Disney to do.
Is Coco Melon the one that's like hyperactive? Like every scene's like 1.5 seconds, and it keeps.
It might be. I'm not. I'm not that familiar with it, but I know it's popular. I know Drew Barrymore is connected to some of them and stuff like that. So, and that the other prediction is that the CFO Christine McCarthy will be leaving Disney. Which
I think, can see that one is an easy like prediction.
I mean, she's been there for a while. She's the one apparently who went to the board to get rid of Chapek and stuff like that. So obviously she's not happy with everything going on. I think either she'll be lined up to be the next CEO or she'll leave. And I don't know, putting another finance person as the CEO, I just don't think is the direction they're going to go.
Yeah, we talked about this on Discord. She might be somebody that you could pair up with somebody that's more in the creative aspect of things that can help take care of Hollywood and the content creators. I just don't see it, and I don't mean to be an ageist, but she is, at retirement or slightly older than retirement.
Yeah, I think she's 67 now.
And I think the next CEO needs to be in their like late 50s, early 60s at the most, I think, just so that they could be there for 10 years.
Exactly. Yeah.
That type
I
of
think
thing.
that makes sense. So quickly through some news items, but, wanted to mention a few things that are going on that we're getting some chatter on Discord and elsewhere on social media. We're going to skip our takes, but speaking of social media accounts, please find us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok, all at the DBC Pod. Tried to put out I didn't overdo it though, but I put out some tweets and stuff like that while we were down there. And of course, our Discord server. Please come and join the conversation there. And want to welcome new member to the Discord server, Zolo91. So welcome, and already welcome. Had some questions that we're hopefully helping them out with some answers. So that'll do it for that area.
Yeah. Yes. Now the good stuff, right? Now we get to.
Yeah, I was trying to power through that a little bit.
Yeah. I kept my mouth shut most of the time. Didn't really work though. So basically, these are just a bunch of like hot topics, top level stuff, like I said at the top of the show that we wanted to talk about. We're going to do like a day by day type of trip report next week. And it should be interesting how our days sync up together as we're at the same parks. But I think some of the more interesting things that we would normally talk about during a trip report, we're extracting them and going to be talking about here. I think we have a good progression of topics as we're going around and playing around with that. So first we want to talk about, because we always talk about planning on this show. This is the original intent, planning, because Phil and I are both uber planners. And I just want to say, Phil, I've never met Phil in person until this trip. It's been hilarious. And we were going to meet up sometime like around noon. We by chance got like the same time for Jingle Cruise, and we rope drop, and we're like in the same line across from each other at Peter Pan in the morning. And like, oh, hey, Phil. And,
we like crisscross in the queue. Yeah.
We crisscrossed in the queue. We crisscrossed again and again throughout the parks, throughout our days. And I find it funny. Whereas, as we're playing, like, you have a plan. You got to get here. You got a lightning lane. You've got 5 steps ahead, which we'll talk about in Genie Plus, how that kind of warped your mentality or warped your way around that, right? Maybe warp's the wrong word. Maybe it's the right word. I don't know. But Phil was always going in one direction. I was always going in the other direction. And we didn't have time to just kind of like chill and like hang out in the parks because we have plans and we got to do them. So I thought that was kind of funny. But our first topic is travel, getting to the world. I drove, you flew. Anything different than any previous times? I mean, you usually have it pretty set up pretty good.
Yeah.
So what did you end up doing?
So this time, what we did was based off of flights, and one thing we find is the cheaper days to fly are Thursdays and Tuesdays. So we took a flight out very late on Thursday, and we wound up landing close to 11 o'clock p.m. down in Orlando. Took a shuttle over to a local, chain hotel just to spend the night. It was a Spring Hill Suites. Overall, worked out. The only issue we had was the shuttle, like we kept calling and they didn't show up, and then they were trying to send another one, and it was funny because I could tell the front desk guy I was talking to was getting more and more annoyed, not at us, at the like shuttle people, like you could
Right.
hear, like what are you doing, why aren't they there? So it took us a little while to get there, but they had good guest recovery. They gave us like free waters and let the kids just like grab whatever they wanted from like the little market and stuff like that. So they got all snacks and stuff like that, so it worked out in the end. But by the time we're settled down in bed, it was almost like 1 a.m. So it's a little late, but we, slept in, got some breakfast at the hotel, and then took a car service over to where we would be staying, which was Kidani Village at Animal Kingdom Lodge. We used FL Tours, who we used in the past. They're it's always worked out well, and compared to other car services, their pricing seems pretty good. We had a nice little surprise where we go down to like, the guy's texting me, I'm here, I'm at the hotel ready to pick you up. We go down and I'm like looking outside. It's like, oh, well, there's a limo out there. I guess he must be parked down the side because I just booked like a regular car. And I get up there and apparently they surprised us by bringing like a stretch limo to take us over. So the kids were very excited about that.
That's
First
awesome.
time they'd ever been in a limo. I got a lot of photo of them kind of like lounging, and they had the original Aladdin was playing on the TVs in there and stuff like that. So
Oh, that's really good.
so it worked out well, and we had our pit stop over at Publix to get water and sunscreen and snacks and all sorts of stuff like that. We always overbuy, but it's easier than when you're flying. It's a lot easier than bringing everything.
Yeah.
So overall, it worked out. We wound up getting to Animal Kingdom Lodge, Kidani Village, right around a little bit before noon, like 11:30 ish a.m. So that was our travel to get to our hotel.
So for me, I drove. Originally, we were like, okay, we'll drive. Our check-in day was a Wednesday. We're gonna drive, basically on Tuesday throughout the night, and just like get to the hotel and just go. And more I thought about it, I was like, oh no, we were gonna take the kids out of school around noon and then drive through the day, kind of like what we did a year ago, and that kind of worked out. But I'm thinking to myself, why are we sending our kids to school for 2 hours before we take them out? So we ended up leaving on Monday night. We left at 9 o'clock. I attempted to take a nap or whatever. So I just basically lied in the dark with my eyes closed for a couple hours. I guess that's worth something. So we left at 9. We got to down there in Orlando probably around 1 o'clock or so. And I had booked a room off of Hotwire with one of their express deals, whatever. We ended up getting Silver Lake Resort. It's a nice resort. The rooms are really nice. They're roomy, and it was like $100 a night. You really can't beat that price. And they had a huge salt pool that was heated. It was like almost like taking a bath, which was really good. So the kids swam for a bunch of hours. We went back to our room, went to Disney Springs at night, and kind of walked around for an hour or two, and then we went back to the room. And then in the morning, we just drove right over to Caribbean Beach Resort, and off we went. So I think I would always drive again. I just 5 people, tickets and flights, just unless you can get a really banging good deal, that seems expensive to me. So I drove straight through. I'm a road warrior, so I don't recommend that for anybody. I want to talk about Caribbean Beach Resort. We're going to talk about our hotel choices. I stayed here not 5 months ago, and I absolutely love Caribbean Beach Resort. I stayed again in Jamaica. I put a room request in with touring plans, and I got the building that I wanted. Our building was basically, you went around the corner, down the stairs, to the left about maybe 200-300 yards was the Skyliner. Across the parking lot was the bus stop, and you couldn't ask for a better position. And then to the main pool was maybe a 5-minute walk, which was also pretty. And we ended up going to the pool quite a bit. So all in all, extremely happy. And I have to report, the cast member interaction at the Caribbean Beach was top notch. I've never had a better cast member experience at a hotel. Not saying I've had bad ones. I've had mostly good ones, right? But this one, they went above and beyond. Everybody was smiling, assisting. doing all sorts of things that maybe you get once or twice during your day, but it was like every single time a cast member was around us, they were helping us out. Went to go buy food. I said, hey, where can I get just a cup of coffee? I did a mobile order. I don't know how to add a beverage onto my order. So no, here's a cup. It's on us. Go have free soda, and then free coffee and stuff like that. Typically, things you would expect, almost like a Hilton Garden Inn, like a coffee type of thing. It was free. And one story we had was when my daughter was swimming, one of her diamond earrings came out. She has like these little tiny diamond studs, and we couldn't find it. And one of the cast member lifeguards that wasn't on duty said, all right, I'm going to go change and help you look. He got changed. It was trolling the pool with me alongside him. We're searching for it, and turned out the earring was on the lifeguard stand the whole time. Somebody else had found it like an hour ago. But he stripped down, got into a bathing suit, and was helping us look for something. And you can't get better than that. I mean, that's just unbelievable. So the whole staff made us feel incredibly welcome. And I really felt like I was at, a luxury resort because of the way they were. Not all the time you're staying at a moderate do you feel like you're staying at a quote unquote luxury resort, but with the level of service that we got, I couldn't ask for anything better.
Excellent. Good to hear.
So yeah, Animal Kingdom Lodge, right?
Yeah. So we decided this was the first time we were renting DVC points. As the kids are getting older, it's getting harder and harder for a family of 5 to fit. We've stayed at Caribbean Beach several times, fit in the rooms that fit 5, but also the 1 bedrooms at Kidani where we're staying have 2 full bathrooms and just more room. And so we're like, let's give this a shot. So for the, the square footage, it was obviously, per night more expensive than staying at Caribbean Beach, but considering what we were getting, I thought it was worth trying it out. So we got, our room wasn't ready when we got there, obviously, because it was earlier, so we weren't expecting it or anything. We left all our bags with bag check, and we went to Disney Springs, which we'll get to when we go through our day by day. But we got, I think it was around 1:32. I got the text that the room was ready, so we headed back. And I was like, okay, I wanted to be on like the 3rd floor. That's where it was, because then you can have a good view of the animals and stuff like that. So we get in, we start walking towards our room, and we're walking. And we're walking. It must have been like a half mile. It was almost the furthest section out. That is one downside to Animal Kingdom Lodge. The hallways are pretty long. And we get to the room, and all of a sudden I notice we're going in left instead of right. Right would be.
Well, let me interrupt. Do you have a preference of Disney Resort where it's mostly indoor hallway walking, or where it's kind of outside, kind of like a CBR or any of the other moderates?
I don't know if I necessarily have a preference. I guess one thing, with the outdoor kind of, you got to find your building and then figure out which side you're on and stuff like that. At least this, it was clear, like which way to go and stuff like that.
Sure.
So I think if I had to pick, I like the indoor, but it's not like it's a huge deal to us, so
but you're walking.
Yeah, we're walking. And so as we're walking down the hallway, we know to the rooms to the right will overlook the main Savannah, and the rooms to the left, parking lot or whatever. And all of a sudden we get to our room. We had paid for a Savannah view room, or the points for that, and our room was on the left. So we're like, okay. So we get in the room, and we do have a Savannah view, but it's not of the main Savannah. It's one of the side Savannahs, and like straight ahead, we're seeing a lot of fencing and stuff like that. And so and there was only like one cattle guy there and stuff. And we're like, I have this, vision of like walking in, the kids going out on the balcony, there being giraffes and like this whole big thing. And it didn't quite have that wow moment. I will say we got more used to it. And as you looked the other way, you didn't see as much fencing, and, the kids got to know the animals that were there. So they named the cattle Walter. That was, so Walter always had his spot. And then there were some zebras there, which were cool, like a baby zebra and a mama zebra who they named Zoe and Zachary. And not that those are the real names, but that's just what they gave them. They're like, oh, Zachary's out there. I'm like, okay. So it worked out. And so in the end, it was fine, but it just didn't have that wow moment to start with that I was hoping for. I did actually call down and see if there was any other rooms available. They have kind of a weird thing where I guess when you call the front desk, it doesn't actually go to the front desk. It goes to like a central call area, and then they put in the request to the front desk. So then the front desk people had to get back to us. And when they did, they said they didn't have any other Savannah views that night. They could change us the next day, but we were only there for like a couple days. So we're like, you know what? It's not, we're settled. It is what it is. And
fair.
Like I said, over time, we got more used to it. And I will say one thing that's nice with the 1 bedroom, you have like the living area and the bedroom, and they both go out to the same balcony. So it's a nice long balcony with lots of chairs and stuff like that. And when we get into the day by day, I'll get into this more. But we had friends who live in the Tampa area that came to see us that Friday night, and we were hanging by the pool and all that sort of stuff. We wound up eating in the room. Um, and so there were 8 of us in the room. It was 4 adults and 4 kids, and it handled 8 people no problem.
Oh,
Like
that's pretty
it's
cool.
a good size space. So like I said, the square footage was great. Having 2 full bathrooms was great. I love the quality of like the furniture in there. It just feels like luxurious, and it's themed without being in your face themed and stuff. So I think
Right.
so. Other than the distance and then kind of that first reaction view, we ultimately really liked it. I guess the only other downside, we just didn't have enough, and we'll get to this maybe more at the end. We just didn't have enough resort time. So I think that'll kind of
That's part of it. That's part of
yeah.
this discussion
So
we're gonna
that'll
have
be
is like
sort of our
resource
big
managers. Yep.
takeaway. I think is would we do the same thing? We would definitely stay there again, but probably not for the same type of trip that we did this time, which was
Right.
like kind of the more quick, intense park type trip.
All right, so the next topic we want to talk about is the big one. It's Genie Plus. We've been talking about Genie Plus and our preferences and everything else like this for over a year now, and I've got 2 trips under my belt using it, pretty intense ones. You have your first one as
Yep.
well, and so I believe I know I had Genie Plus purchased for every single my day. I got grandfathered in when they offered it with the packages. I believe you did too.
Same thing. Yeah, exact
Yep.
same thing. Yep.
So you had it, so you had no choice but to use it. So I guess the first thing is, would you purchase it for every single day of your trip, or would you be more selective about it in the future?
So I think it depends on the type of trip I did. If I was doing the same thing now, where it was like 3 park days with park hopper, and they're kind of like just intense park days,
Mm-hmm.
I would buy it for each day. If it was a longer trip, where like 5 to 7 days, and we're only doing 1 park per day, I would only buy it on a couple days.
Yep, I'm with you on that one. Um, what I found that it's practically useless at Epcot, and it's practically useless at Animal Kingdom. Other than, I think I mentioned this in our last show, the Genie Plus was basically an individual lightning lane for Remy's Test Track or Frozen, whichever one you picked in the morning for Epcot Day, and it was like a free individual lightning lane for Navi River Journey, because you don't
Yeah.
need Genie Plus for any other attraction in either one of those parks, which is kind of silly. While we were there, the modified Genie Plus times
Yes.
feature came out. Did you use it at all?
We
I know
used
you
it.
did. So
We used
I'm
it a
pumped to
lot,
hear.
actually. The main thing we used it for, though, because for those of you who haven't used Genie Plus, compared to like FastPass, you don't get to pick your time that you get. You just get the next time available. So it's like the old paper Fast Pass or Max Pass at Disneyland. So if that time doesn't really work for you, you're kind of stuck with it. We use the modify feature a lot if that happened, to push back the our return time for that attraction. So, for example, at Epcot, we were decided to take a midday break on our Epcot day, and instead of like losing the Lightning Lane return time we had for Soarin' or whatever, we just kept pushing it back until a time that we wanted that worked better for us. So we were very thankful to have that modify feature, mostly for that, where this way you're not kind of stuck with the time you have where you have to cancel and then just hope you could get something back. We use the modify feature a lot to push it to a time that worked better for us.
I was booking one of my, I forget which day it was, but I was using Genie Plus to but I kept sitting there waiting to use it until the times got pushed back. I
Yeah.
guess I could have used the modify feature to do that. Does it affect your 2-hour window if you
No,
change it?
so if you book at, you're set for whatever return time or whatever, and you're on the 2 hour window, and you use the modify feature, you're still the same 2 hour. It doesn't reset your 2 hours. Your 2 hours are from when you initially book it.
What if you were able to refresh and get an earlier time? So let's say it's 9 o'clock in the morning, or no, let's say it's 11, right? And it's your it's your first actual in-park reservation that you're making, and you make it for 3 o'clock in the afternoon,
Mm-hmm.
but you refresh it and you find one for 9:30, right?
Yep.
So you go to your 9:30 one. Does the same rule apply where you can then book it again?
It
Once you
should, yeah. I
finish
mean,
it?
it should be that once you scan in, that should then, because that's the one that you're
It'll clear it,
attached
right?
to. It should then you should be able to book
Okay,
your next one.
that's good too. I used it primarily for. There was one day I booked. I think it was Splash Mountain on my second Magic Kingdom day, I was having issues with Wi-Fi to get like Jungle Cruise booked on my first day. So I was like, all right, we got Splash. I kept modifying it within the first 10-minute window because it doesn't give you times. If you
Yeah.
remember the first one, I just kept clicking modify, modify, cancel. And I eventually was able to get my 3 o'clock lightning reservation down to about 11:30, which I thought that was really awesome. Actually, that was the Jungle Cruise one. Excuse me. It was the
Oh
Jungle
yeah. Okay.
Cruise. That's how we matched up. I kept dragging it down until I couldn't get anything anymore. It was actually really helpful. I found out that when you modify it later on, it's harder to refresh. It takes a little bit longer and it's kind of a little bit wonkier. Okay, so how many lightning lanes were you able to get on each day? Did you keep track? I don't have a number, but I have listed every single
Yeah.
step.
I listed out everything I did, and it varied by day. But over the 3 days, so we only had 3 park days, but we did a park hopper, so that helped a lot. Being able to kind of start booking for your second park. But we got 15 lightning lanes over the 3 days. So
See,
we averaged about 5. I think one day we had 6, one day we had 4, and one day we had 5. But we averaged 5 lightning lanes a day.
That's roughly where I was. Also, but we also took a lot of park breaks too.
Mhm.
So if we really wanted to maximize things, we could have had maybe 1 or 2 more. You had a note here. You wanted to talk about how it compares to your FastPass Plus system. So,
Yeah.
what was your take on that?
So, I mean, maybe this ties into my overall take a little bit too, but I think it's obviously you have the negative in that you don't know going into your day exactly what's going to be. Like we had our plans. It was mostly, okay, what do we want to do at 7 a.m.? And then we'll kind of take it from there and say, okay, well, what do we get done? What's available? And you're kind of monitoring, well, what do we think will be available when we can book our next one and stuff like that. So I know you've used this term where it's sort of like on the fly planning, project management. And that is what it turned out to be. I mean, it's not like I had my spreadsheet out and was working things, but you're kind of just constantly monitoring, like, well, what do we think we can do when it's up next? And so I think that we were on our phones quite a bit with it. On the flip side, I feel like we got more done. It was more efficient. We got, I'm just looking at one day, we got Navi River, but then we stacked for Hollywood Studios where we got Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway, this Millennium Falcon, Slinky Dog, and Rock and Roller Coaster. Like, I think it would be pretty hard to get all those back in the FastPass Plus day where everyone got it. So people are using them for things even if they didn't necessarily need to. And we were skipping a lot of lines that were posted at like an hour long or more. So, some of them maybe were only 20 minutes or something, but even that you get 2, 3 20-minute waits. That's another hour you saved and stuff. So I feel like it was a little more work, but for getting stuff done, it was more efficient. I also will say, I think we went on sort of the perfect level of crowds for maximizing it because it was crowded enough that there were enough lines that it was worth skipping, even if they were only 20 to 30 minutes, but it wasn't so crowded that you couldn't book anything. Like we even, on our Epcot day, when it hit 11 o'clock, our time for our next one, we could get Test Track, which, a lot of days that's not the case. So I think it was crowded enough where it helped having it, but not too crowded that we weren't.
I was able to get a midday Remy's. It was crazy.
Yeah.
I thought that was kind of lucky. I mean, I'll give you a perfect example. If piggybacking off your Hollywood Studios, well, again, this will be more detail next week, but we did a midday break. We went back to Hollywood Studios after doing a bunch of shows and some, Tower of Terror and Rock and Roller Coaster, which my young one didn't go on. We had a 2-hour sprint at the end of the day where we had Toy Story Mania, Slinky, Rise, Falcon, Fantasmic, and we just like power charged through. We barely made it going through all of them, but like we were just stacking. We were able to do that late in the day as long as you're booking the right lightning lanes early, and if you know approximately what times the other ones go out. So that's another thing, and we'll jump to the overall take here, and this is what I want to kind of get your opinion. So I agree with you. I've mentioned this before. I think functionally, Genie Plus is better than FastPass Plus doing what it's supposed to do.
Yep.
Right. So if all you look at is how many lines did I skip, it works. We're going to ignore the cost and the money aspect of all of that. Right. So that's already baked in at this point. But what's not tangible really is the mental space that it takes up during your day. I found out when I went with our 4-day trip with my wife that it required a lot of mental nonsense in my brain. Like, what's next? I'm constantly looking at my phone. Where are the lightning lanes disappearing to? Which ones I'm going to have to grab first? And again, my first trip doing it, and my second trip doing it, I was a lot more relaxed. I knew going in that I did not want to go crazy with all this stuff. I was able to get the same amount done, but I had less stress doing it because I took whatever came to me. And granted, I had multiple days at certain parks anyway, so it wasn't that big of a deal. But it got easier from a planning aspect as time went on. And I'm curious to ask you is like being the Uber planner, seeing you like you and your wife on your phone, like, all right, I've got a living with the land that we got to go to. I got to go over here to here. Like, how did that impact your enjoyment of the park?
Yeah. So I don't think it detracted too much because we're always going to be planning to somewhat. And even if it wasn't this, we'd be looking at wait times or the touring plans lineup. Like we'd be checking things anyway.
Right.
Um, so I don't think it detracted too much. There were a few things that were a little bit annoying time wise, like on our Epcot day, we didn't get, spoiler alert, we didn't get our Guardians virtual queue. We didn't get in at the 7 a.m. one. So that meant we needed to try at the 1 p.m. one. Well, 1 p.m., the park opened at 9. So that means the 2-hour rule was 11, and then the 2-hour rule was 1. So at 1 p.m., we had both the virtual queue and like our next lightning lane. So we had to like strategize about which one do we do first. So I think that there's a few little things that maybe they could still tweak that would help. But yeah, it does. I think we were really efficient with it. We got a lot done. My big take is you kind of have to tour the parks that way to get any reasonable use out of Genie Plus. With FastPass Plus, you could be, someone who's constantly refreshing and trying to get that fourth one and their fifth one, or you could just we have our 3 for the day. We know we're going to get on 3 good rides. We do that if we get on anything else. I felt like I didn't have time to sort of pause and enjoy the roses because I was focusing on Genie Plus. And I think that's why
point.
Yeah, and I think so. I felt like we had a great time. We got a ton done. We enjoyed doing the attractions and stuff like that. But because we had it for every day and we had park hopping, I felt like our days were sort of driven by Genie Plus. And that's why I think in the future, I would plan some Genie Plus days and some not Genie Plus days where you can kind of do all the other stuff.
Well, I mean that's exactly what I was getting to, and I'm happy that you felt the same. And you're going to bring it up because this was a longer trip, right? My previous trip was similar. It was 4 days, park hoppers, and we were just go. What can we get? It was basically a ride sprint for 4 days. It wasn't a relaxing vacation. It was an adventure vacation. This was 6 full park days, 1 arrival day, and 2 travel days, and I thought we could spread out our engagement, but no, we had Genie Plus every day, and every single day was a sprint. Now, granted, and this is all spoiler stuff for whatever, you have to actively plan downtime. You have to force yourself not to be in the parks, which is going to segue into best way to tour each park, or at least in my opinion, of doing this in a moment. But yeah, when you're in the Magic Kingdom, it was in my second day. This is your first Magic Kingdom day, my second. I wasn't as hyper focused on getting to all the rides because we had done almost every ride that we wanted to do that first day. So I wanted to stop and smell the roses, go into some shops and whatever. But I had Genie Plus in front of me. And of course, I'm going to default to doing all the cool rides anyway. Yeah. And I couldn't get away from it because I paid money for it. I blah, 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 and all this other stuff. And it's just like, you can't breathe when you're doing that. I mean, granted, if that's what you want to be doing, like rush. My problem is if I don't take a break in the middle of the day or get an early night, I lose the sense of journey because I get back late, I take a shower, I go to bed, and it starts another day. I don't have time to digest what happened that day. Yeah. And I've talked about this on a lot of different shows 2 years ago on this podcast about taking resort days, taking breaks, and all this other stuff. I think it's extremely important. If you're going on a longer stay, that's not just like a weekend where you just want to do as much as possible. Right. So that's going to lead to the next kind of segue here is the best way to tour each park in the new reality where it's always going to be crowded. You're always going to have decently long lines for most of the headliners. And with a lot of the Genie Plus changes, like modifying and all this other stuff. Now, the one thing I want to say is all of these things that I'm about to talk about, in my opinions, would drastically change if they changed the way Genie Plus worked. And if I could get the Genie Plus Plus, if that was that allowed me to park hop on a single day, I'd be all over it. I don't want to have hoppers for every single day I'm there. There's 1 or 2 days I would love to have a hopper pass, and that's it. But you can't do that. So this is based off of non-hoppers and no hoppers any day, single park days, I should say. So my first question to you now, looking at all this stuff, because you had half days at every park because you hopped,
Right.
how many parks in your estimation are half day parks if it's just without hoppers and it's a single day at a park?
Um.
Let's start with Animal Kingdom, the obvious one.
Yeah. So a lot of them always depends on what you want to do. We could always fill a full day at Animal Kingdom because there's enough to do with the shows and wandering around. This was a weird trip for us at Animal Kingdom. We didn't spend that much time there, but we got a lot of the key things we wanted done and things we hadn't done recently. So it was great. So if that's your focus, you can definitely get done, 95% of what you really want to do in half a day at Animal Kingdom. But there's always a lot of things that, the Merry Menagerie was out, or just different animal shows and things like there's just a lot to do there that aren't attractions. So it's hard to say. Like, I think there's enough to do for a full day, but I also think, if you want to break things up and say we can't go full day every day, you can definitely get a lot done at Animal Kingdom in a half day.
So two of my questions I had in this section is what parks are not worth early entry, what parks are not worth staying late for. So we're going to kind of put this all into one here. And in my opinion, Animal Kingdom is not worth getting up early for, assuming that you don't mind paying for Flight of Passage or waiting online for that. Yeah. Or assuming that you don't want to ride Expedition Everest like 4 times in a row, because you can go over there and just do that. We went in late and we stayed till 6:30, 7 o'clock because I wanted to see the park at night. And it's not really worth it at night because there's really nothing to do. It's a lot of crowds and you're just walking around at that point. Animal Kingdom to me is a half-day park. It's a good time for you to kind of get there in the mid-morning and not rush, because typically right now you can get in there with early entry at 7:30 in the morning, which I think is crazy. And you can stay throughout the day. And I don't think there's enough to do all day long. Even if I went and stayed at the shows and did all the other things, I'd still be done within 6 hours. So Genie Plus is worth it there if you just want to be able to save maybe 40 minutes of your day and just get back to your resort earlier. And in Animal Kingdom, because of this, you're able to get home to your resort earlier and then have that digestible time at the end of the day. Because that day we did some nighttime swimming at the pools. We were at the pools until 9:30 at night. And it was cool to just sit down, have a beer outside. The kids are running around, and I could actually speak with my wife without being interrupted by a 7-year-old, which is pretty good. Okay, so let's go down to Hollywood Studios. Do you consider this a half-day park or worth rope dropping for? What do you think?
Yeah, Hollywood Studios is a weird one because there's a lot of good attractions. I don't know. I think we did Hollywood Studios really well this trip in that we hopped to it, so we kind of showed up with a bunch of lightning lanes in our pocket. And I think whether you were doing that from hopping or you just go kind of for the second half of the day and you spend the first half of the day stacking, I think that's the best strategy for the park.
I totally agree, because I was talking to my wife. My wife dislikes Hollywood Studios tremendously. There's not a lot to do there outside some of the newer attractions, and it is a bear to navigate. It's just not fun walking around that. And that's one of the more popular parks. And because the traffic always just comes back on itself and it's not circular like Magic Kingdom, it just gets really crowded. And my wife doesn't like that. And I don't blame her, because I hate walking around that park unless it's in tight little areas. I love walking around Toy Story Land. I love walking around Galaxy's Edge. I love walking down Sunset Boulevard. I don't like walking from each one of those places in the in-between areas. So I was talking to her. I was like, you know what? Hollywood Studios is probably a day where you wake up at 7, you try to get Slinky Dog for 6 p.m. or whatever it might be, and then you go back to sleep. You go about your you take the morning off. You don't get to the park until 3, 4, 5 o'clock at night, depending on how you start stacking. Just stack everything for that day.
Yep.
Because the only thing that's worth stacking is Slinky, Rise, Falcon, and Tower of Terror, and maybe Rock and Roller Coaster. And you get there, maybe do one ride that's an hour-long line that you couldn't get. And you've basically done all the park if you just don't want to do some of the meet and greets and the shows and stuff like that. So to me, Hollywood Studios while it could be a full day, because we did a split day on that, I think you just save it for the night and see Fantasmic and have a good time and take a break. Okay, so we're going to save Magic Kingdom for last. I want to talk about Epcot. Epcot, your favorite park. How are you doing Epcot from a grand overview? Are you getting there early and late? Are you getting there at like 11, 12 o'clock? How do you
So we got there fairly early. We got there in time for, I think we showed up like kind of right as early entry started. So we weren't at the front of early entry, but we were there, we had the full early entry time. And I think it's just great getting in there earlier. You get kind of through the future world and the construction and stuff like that, and kind of get where you're heading. And we spent a full day there. We did take a midday break. I think because that park is open so late, and we went on the Monday that we had the extra evening hours. It was like a perfect day for taking that midday break. So we got there. What was it, 8:30ish? We took
another
a midday
spoiler.
break.
I had to go home, and Phil got to stay. Our last night there. But
and then we were there until about after 11. But we took that midday break. People got naps. People, we did some pool time, stuff like that. So I think it's a full day. It's a long day, but it's a day because of how late it's open and how things are spread out and how you can kind of snack around. Though there's some festival going on pretty much at all the time. I think it's a perfect day for one where you don't have to race around and you're not trying to get in 50 million attractions. You're trying to enjoy all the extra stuff, but mixed in having some really good attractions.
Yep.
I think it's a great long day, but fit in a midday break.
So the way we did it, I don't want to get too much into the planning, but the first day we planned a midday break and we couldn't do it because we just were having fun, and then we had Akashus at 6 o'clock, so there's no way we're going. And the second day we did take a midday break, but we went to the Grand Floridian. I personally would not rope drop Epcot at all. I think it's a waste of time. If you're going to Epcot twice, basically rope drop gets you Remy's and then gets you one of the other two rides, which is Frozen or Test Track. The way I would do it in the future was, again, I'll sleep late and either go in for the evening and just get the lightning lanes that I want, or maybe if I want a fuller day at Epcot and enjoy it, I go in at lunchtime for the rest of the day. I don't think it's worth going there morning, noon, and night. I think it's a late day park. And it's perfectly set up for that. Unless there's like, you need to get on something because you haven't been at Remy's ever. It's, a good target for rope drop.
Yeah.
So I want to say
this trip we did have a lot. Like, we hadn't done Cosmic Rewind. We've only done Remy once. We didn't do Frozen our last trip. So it's been several years since so we did have a few of those key ones we did want to get. And obviously we only had the one Epcot day. So we wanted to maximize that day and time and stuff. But yeah, I see your point that especially maybe if you have a couple Epcot days, just you don't need to be there the full day.
No, and I got to say, I would not rope drop Remy's anymore. Somehow I got lucky in the middle of the summer. We tapped in with early entry, went right to Remy's. We just basically walked right on. When we tapped in at 8:31, so 1 minute over early entry. There was already a 1 hour line for Remy's when I got in there, and I was like, "Holy smokes!" And I should have just turned around and went to the other rides, but I didn't do that. So I would suggest maybe rope dropping Test Track or Frozen, because by the time we got out of Remy's at like 9:30 or so, the line was half if it was at rope drop. I think just everybody just got sucked in, and I don't know how they got back there. Did they let people in early to get lined up prior to early entry? Because that's the only way that many people were waiting for it.
They did from the front. They did have signs like early entry this way, so I think that's what they must do. Is that they let you at least tap in, and then
that's must have been it. Okay, so let's go to Magic Kingdom. This is my big. Magic Kingdom used to be my favorite park. Now I don't think I have a favorite park. I just like being there. We had 2 Magic Kingdom days. It's absolutely worth early morning entry. This park is absolutely phenomenal up until about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. It is fantastic. It's been sometimes it was a little crowded. Sometimes it's rather empty in the morning. You can get a lot done, not feel crowded in, and really enjoy the magic. You're not fighting against anybody. It's not overbearing or anything else like that. This park between about 2 to about 7 is completely unbearable. And I do not want to be in the Magic Kingdom for 5 hours. And the only reason why it would be is like I have one day at Magic Kingdom. I want to try to get my stuff done. I'm going to force myself to endure it. There's some endurance required during those hours. And they're both days we ended up leaving midday. One day at 3:00, one day maybe a little hour earlier, and go back swimming and kind of relax, that type of thing. And then we went back. And I want to say our first day there on a Wednesday. And again, this is spoilers for the trip show. I always forget what they called it, but the back road to get out of the park that they open up for fireworks behind Main Street, there was literally people sitting on the ground lined up in massive crowds to watch the fireworks from that angle. There was literally no standing space in any taped up area, and that counts from the sides of the castle all the way up to Teacups into Tomorrowland, anywhere, completely full. And it was obscene, and I felt really bad for the cast members having to usher everybody in, people trying to struggle to get into a spot to see the fireworks. That park should never be like that. And Disney needs to do a better job controlling the crowds of people coming into that park. The second time here wasn't that bad, but it was. I don't like it. I don't like the crowds. It was worst crowds than I've ever seen before. And granted, I'm not there in the busiest times of the year to kind of see how it used to get really bad, but this was unbearable. For your Magic Kingdom, are you getting there early, staying all day? What's your kind of strategy?
I mean, I feel like what we did this time worked well. We only had one Magic Kingdom day, and it was only part of a day. We got there in the middle of early entry, so we didn't even get full early entry, but at least we got part of it, and we left around 3.
Same as me, yeah.
And we kind of got done. I mean, I'm not going to say we did everything we wanted to, but we got there were must-dos that people had, and we got through them all. And we were kind of ready to go by then, so I think it's just, there's so much there. It's kind of overwhelming at times. And I think, yeah, it's hard to do that from rope drop to end of day. It's just exhausting.
Yeah. Now I want to say I saw Phil sweating quite a bit as we were on Jungle Cruise getting off. It's like, hey, Phil, let's go take a picture. And he's kind of looking at me on the side, I've got to go do this. I got to go do this. And I got to go do this. You're messing me up. I'm like, all right, you can go. We'll worry about pictures later.
We did get a picture.
We did. No, we did. We did for sure. I wanted to get one in front of the castle. No. This is it right here. Let's do this. I'm just poking fun at Phil. It was an awesome 2-family picture too. It's on. If you were on Discord, you got to see it. The way I view this is my perfect week, because I was talking about hopping, limited hopping. I don't need hoppers if I'm going there for a longer vacation, right? Mm-hmm. I don't need hoppers for my Magic Kingdom day. I love coming back at 7:00 at night when the park is dark and everything's lit up. The park is beautiful at that point. Everybody sucked to the hub. I just stay away from it and was able to do a whole bunch of different things and had a good time doing it. I want to be able to do Animal Kingdom and Hollywood Studios in one day. This is what we did during the summer. Mm-hmm. You get everything that you wanted to done with, if you have Genie Plus, with Animal Kingdom. Get done by 11. Go have some lunch, and then you can hit up Hollywood Studios by stacking. The same thing that you did. And that's I never want to go back to Hollywood Studios. Never want to go back to Animal Kingdom for my stay, because there's nothing there for me. Maybe Hollywood Studios at night if you want to see Fantasmic again, because that's an awesome show. But if it's everything's about just doing rides and attractions, that's all you need for those 2 parks in a single day. And then maybe take one less park day and just kind of do a resort Disney Springs chill day type of thing.
Yeah.
How would you hop on, let's say, a 5 or 6 day vacation that you're there, that you're really...
Yeah, it's interesting because prior to this trip, we were never really park hopping family. We decided to pull the trigger on this trip because we only had the 3 park days, and it was becoming clear people wanted to get to Hollywood Studios and stuff like that. And we're like, all right, we'll have the 3 days, we'll maximize it. And I actually really enjoyed having the hoppers, especially utilizing it with Genie Plus. Mm-hmm. Being able to stack for that next park is so helpful. So if I have a 5-6 day trip, in the past, I never would have gotten hoppers.
It's expensive.
But I think now I would be tempted to do it and just cut something else. I probably wouldn't hop every day, but I would, maybe the days I get Genie Plus, or at least the non-Magic Kingdom days I get Genie Plus, I would hop those days. And then the in-between days would just be the more kind of slower days. I'm not maybe hopping, I'm not getting Genie Plus, and we're doing everything else. So I know it adds money to it. But I think I feel like that's kind of one of my big takeaways from this trip, is that I think I really need to mix in some busy days, and those are the days you pay for the Genie Plus and try to get as many attractions done with other days. And I think Genie Plus with hopping works really well. So I think I would just suck it up and pay it and try to cut some money elsewhere.
Yep. I'm kind of with you on that. I just hope that Disney allows us to buy individual hopper passes to put on our ticket. I don't know why they don't do that, because they would get money out of me to do that, especially if it's like you must buy Genie Plus that day to actually hop, and you get
Yeah.
another $15 to $29 from me plus that extra fee. The way I would set it up would be if I had 6 park days, just if I'm going to redo my trip, I could buy individual hopper tickets for the day, I would just do 2 Magic Kingdom days. I would do 2 Epcot days, both going in around noon. I would do 1 busy Animal Kingdom Hollywood Studios hop day, and then 1 day off. That would be a Disney Springs day. That would be something else. And then maybe I have a park ticket for that day. Maybe we go in and see, like, Fantasmic just at night. We go in at after dinner, we go in to see the Fantasmic and we just leave, because maybe our busy Animal Kingdom Hollywood Studios hop day, instead of going to the fireworks, we kind of went and did some rides and stuff like that. I think to me that might be the most perfect execution of a 6-day thing, and not having like hopping every day and then forcing yourself well, I already have Genie Plus and I already have Hopper, so I could go over here and get this done. I could go over here. Like, that's the temptation. And what I've learned, or I've evolved as a Disney touring adult, I guess, with a family. I don't know what you want to call it.
Yeah.
I need more relaxation space. And my wife's always called for this, and we're slowly incorporating it into a lot of our days. And I got to say, sitting at the resort at 7, 8 o'clock and just relaxing with a beer for a couple hours, you start feeling the Disney magic again. Not that it's missing from the parks, but when you're just running around, going on rides, rushing from here to there, you don't get to sit down and relax.
I need to make that mental hurdle jump, whatever you want to call it, where whenever I'm at Disney, any minute not spent in a park is wasting money.
Yep.
And I need to evolve past that, because the parks aren't the only thing that make a vacation. And I need to be better about having vacations, I guess, is what it is. And like the relaxing part of vacation. So,
well, I mean, the fact that you had Animal Kingdom Lodge, you're spending the money on a deluxe experience. You got to, and even at Caribbean Beach, where it's not a deluxe experience, it's a moderate experience, but the lights and everything. I have to say, I love the time of year that we chose to go down this time. I love the dark. I don't like it when the sun is beating down at you at 7:30.
We had like perfect weather as well.
We'll never get weather ever again like this. It was, again, we'll talk about that in our day-to-day trip report. I want to move to ADRs. I was struggling with ADRs, and I managed to get everything that I wanted eventually. What special reservations were you making? Was it worth the effort?
Yep.
Would you do it again, type of thing?
So we didn't have too many. The biggest thing that we were struggling with that I really wanted to get, and that I did all the extra, jump through hoops to get, was to do the up close with rhinos tour at Animal Kingdom. That was something, we wanted to do something extra for my son's birthday and that sort of thing. And that I highly recommend. I mean, I could probably cover that in another episode or something like that in more detail. That was definitely worth it. I mean, they do one a day, and there were 13 people in our group. So there were 13 people that day that got to do this. And, you go backstage, first time my kids had ever been, really backstage at Disney, and seeing, where they keep the animals and getting to pet an actual rhino and stuff like that. Those are like, memories that stick. So that was worth it. The other ADRs we did was my son's birthday. He wanted it at Enzo's Hideaway. Had a great time there. Not a hard ADR to get.
No.
And then the other one we had we had the Creperie, which was pretty good for lunch. That actually worked out. We kind of shared things. So I guess that's a fairly inexpensive Disney sit-down meal if you do it the right way.
I had to wait 25 minutes outside to get some crepes.
Yeah.
Something was going on in that kitchen.
And then we did the Candlelight Procession dining package at Beer Garden, which I guess maybe I could review that when we have our day. Having the Candlelight Procession dining package was worth it, even though we still had to wait like an hour in line to get seats and stuff like that. But at least we knew we had the seat. We knew we were, it was the first night with Josh Gad and stuff like that. We knew where it was going to be a long line. Beer garden was great for some of us, less so for others. So it was kind of a mixed bag. I think, in the future, I'd probably pick something else.
Yeah, for us, this was going to be. I wanted to do all the character meals like we did. The dining plan, very expensive when you're not on the dining plan. Do I regret it? No. Will I be doing it ever again? No. My two older kids, age 9 and 7, they enjoyed it, but it wasn't like a meaningful experience for them. They just had fun. My daughter absolutely loved meeting Tigger and then meeting the princesses. She made a joke where it's like, I'm meeting Aurora. It's my grown up self. I get to meet up my grown up self. And she had really good time with that. Actions has amazing interactions. So if that's something that you're looking for, that is phenomenal. And we're going to talk about our top 3 food. That's going to be in it, but I'll talk about that later. But as far as ADRs, I had originally got an Actions 3 o'clock. And then within I think 3 days of that reservation, I was able to get a 6 o'clock reservation as people were canceling and getting close to it. I canceled my Be Our Guest ADR. I didn't want to spend the money. I don't think it was worth it to go there after seeing my kids with the other experiences. Did Crystal Palace, didn't change my ADR. I was able to get that right off the bat. And my Candlelight Processional, that was a panic move where I almost didn't get, I lost my first time, and I was actually managed to get a second one, and I was at the Rose and Crown. We'll talk about the quality of the food in our trip report later on, but I don't think I would make. I think we would do probably one good ADR for the whole trip, and that would be our big meal. I don't really see us doing big meals ever again, unless it's like a dining plan type of situation where we can kind of do that. I didn't find it worth the experience. I love sitting down, but we also had food at the food court at our resort, and that was perfectly good too. The family sitting around. So I think not until the kids get older where they can actually enjoy good food type of thing.
Yeah.
All right. So last thing we want to get to on this is just hitting my camera there. Standout experiences overall, big generic in general type of things. We got to meet for the first time. That was really cool. We got to watch Harmonious together. I really enjoyed that. We kept crisscrossing. We mentioned this before, crisscrossing us past the parks all the time. I don't think I saw you in Animal Kingdom, but I matched my park days to yours just in case it was an off time. I think I got to meet Matt of the DCI kind of randomly. I saw him across the way from Big Thunder. I was in front of Splash, and I yelled out his name, and he heard me immediately. We kind of hung out for a while. But again, we were all on family trips, so it was really difficult to actually get a chance to like hang out and kind of do like, a couple guys drinking a couple beers type.
Yeah, we had grand plans of that, and that didn't quite happen.
No, that did not happen. I mean, that's what happens when you were busy.
I should say not plans. We had grand visions, maybe, of that happening, yes. but we had other plans that got in the way.
Yeah. I think something we should try is next year at Destination D. Maybe we can go for like a weekend or something else like that. The 3 of us meet down there and watch some blue sky revelations for the parks or something else like that. What was your main takeaway of Cosmic Rewind? This is your first time on.
So Cosmic Rewind, my big takeaway is it might be the most fun ride I've ever been on. It's not the best roller coaster. It's not, whatever, but like, it's just fun. Like, I just smiled the entire time on it. It's really well done. It's thrilling enough to be exciting, but it's so smooth. It's got some unique things on there. We wound up riding it 3 times in one day. And it was absolutely worth it. I do wish they had the variety of songs. Right now it was just the holiday song, which actually I didn't mind the holiday song. I know some people are down on it. I thought it was fun, but I wish it was just 3 different ones versus just the same song. But it's just a really well done attraction.
On the point of the songs, the other songs really make the vibe of the attraction different depending on which song you get. The I forget which one it was. I think it was Saturday. Mm-hmm. There's the first song that we got, my wife and I, back in the summer, and we were just dancing in our seats. It's a high-speed roller coaster. It was absolutely awesome. I definitely think it's one of the most fun attractions on property. It's not daring, it's not crazy, but when you do a move where you kind of dip down and the track goes down and then up, kind of a U shape. That's fun and whatever. But then you do that sideways, and it felt like a
Yeah.
swing. That's an experience that you don't get anywhere else, at least to my knowledge. I'm not a well-traveled like theme park enthusiast where I go to everyone across the country.
And I'll say, not to spoil, I'm no spoilers or anything, but one of the effects in one of the pre-shows is really well done, really effective.
Oh, yeah. It's still too new. We can't spoil, but that's a really good effect. Yes, for sure. All right. What about crowds? Were you disappointed about the crowd level? I know the week before was significantly less crowded than that week.
I was okay with it. Like I said, I think it was like kind of the perfect level for getting the most use out of Genie Plus. So I was glad I had Genie Plus. I probably would feel it was too crowded without it. There were a couple times where you're like, oh, it's getting a little crowded here. But overall, I didn't think they were obnoxiously bad. Yes, it was a little bit like I saw some photos and stuff from the weekend before where there was like no crowds, and I was a little jealous of that. But I don't think they were so high that it really prevented us from doing much of anything. So I thought they were fine, but I guess that's my biggest takeaway was they were definitely there, but not to the point that it really was a deterrent.
Yeah, it wasn't impactful level of crowds because we were able to get on all the rides. There was instances of large crowds for whatever reason, like Kingdom crowds. I mean, it gets crowded. That's why we skipped out on the park. And Hollywood Studios is the only other park that was super crowded. And then Epcot was just a normal crowded day, people eating and drinking, but it wasn't like you couldn't get past people. It wasn't like lines were obscenely long, that type of thing.
No, like even some of the booths, like we'd walk by one and be like, oh, that's kind of a long line. But then like, half hour later it'd be short or whatever. So it was never, like I said, there were crowds, there were lines that were present, but it didn't really negatively impact our trip.
I don't think I would have. I mean, if we went the week prior, we would have had a better crowd experience, but I don't think we would have had a better weather experience, which I think was the most important part of the trip. Last and not least on standout experiences is Magic Band Plus. I did not have them. My kids did. You had yours.
Mm-hmm.
I have to say, they were pretty cool. My kids loved them, and they did more than I thought they would. Because I just thought, okay, wave at some golden statues and you light up during fireworks. My key takeaway is, even though like every time you watch like a room review, like, oh look, there's USB ports here, there's USB ports here, this is fantastic. There's not enough USB ports in the rooms. If everybody in your family has a Magic Band Plus, there's not enough spots for them to charge it and then also charge your phones. So if you're going down there with a large amount of people with Magic Band Pluses, bring some like multi
USB hub type thing,
adapter thing, for sure. So the main
takeaway is go ahead. It's similar that and maybe my expectations were low, but I really enjoyed having them. I mean, I don't think they're like a must do, like don't feel like you have to have them. I'm not going to collect them like I've been collecting regular Magic Bands, but they did way more than I was expecting. The one that really jumps out at me is when we were riding Haunted Mansion, it starts lighting up red and beating like a heartbeat when you're going through it and stuff like things like that. I didn't know it did. And there were enough of those, even like getting off Cosmic Rewind, it would light up in the colors and things like just little fun little things that, all the kids are like, Dad, look at it, look what it's doing and stuff. So it's a fun little add-on. It's not a must do, but it's better. It did more, like you said, it did more than I was expecting, and I was glad we had them.
And I would say it's a must do if you have young kids. Fair. My 5-year-old got so much of seeing her Magic Band light up randomly, like, oh, there's ghosts nearby, I'm on the Haunted Mansion, or Remy's trying to talk to me, he's like, it's lighting up. I mean, like, and she had it would light up when like the parades would go by or vibrate or ping. It's just like, it was just enough of an interaction where it wasn't overwhelming, where you're like, I got to get it happen again. But it was just random enough that the kids were half expecting it, but also pleasantly surprised when it did. Right. Mm-hmm. So they did a really good job with that. It's subtle. And I would only say it's a must do because you get the cheapest ones for like $35 and it's not $100. Right.
Yeah.
If this was a higher price point, definitely not a must do, but at $35, I think,
it's definitely worth getting one, I would say, but like, it's not like totally changes the way you experience the parks or anything like that, but it's a little addition. And like you said, if you're going to get a Magic Band anyway, just spend like $10 more and get it and enjoy it.
I think we're going to end this here. We're going to save our top 3 ADRs for our trip reports. I think they'll go better in there.
Okay.
If you guys have any other opinions on the things that we've said, you've gone recently, you want to add to our experience, or you think that we're totally off on some of the stuff, please feel free to kind of shoot us up on Discord and find that out. You'll find all that stuff in the description of the show notes, wherever you preview our show. With that, Phil, I think we had a great vacation. It was a total success. My wallet's definitely lighter because of it, but that's normal for a Disney World trip. Thank you for listening. And then next week, we'll do like our day-to-day recounting of how much we actually got accomplished and some of the details of a lot of that stuff. So we'll see you next week, guys. Thank you for watching and listening.
Bye, everyone.